Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
And I'm Emily.
This isn't a podcast for coaches. It's for you, for real people navigating real life. It's lighthearted, it's deep, and it's grounded in faith, friendship, and purpose.
And once a month, you can join us in our virtual Life Coach Lounge on Zoom.
So pull up a seat. The Life Coach Lounge is open.
Hello, friends. Welcome into the lounge. We're so glad you're here. Today, we're talking about something everyone engages in, but rarely evaluates: how we spend our free time. Most people don't realize this, but the way you spend your free time is shaping who you become. Not your work, not your goals, your leisure. As Annie Dillard put it, how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. God designed us for rest, but somewhere along the way, rest started looking a lot more like escape. So today on the podcast, we're talking about high quality leisure activities versus low quality hobbies and entertainment. But before we get started, could we ask a favor of you? Would you share the podcast and invite your friends to join our private Facebook group? We have a goal to reach 100 members, so we need your help. So today we're asking the question, what actually makes a hobby life-giving versus just time-filling? Emily, what's something you like to do in your downtime right now? And do you feel refreshed after you do it, or do you feel drained?
So I love this question. And as I was reflecting on it, I realized when I have downtime recently, I've made it a priority to do something that is not involving a screen. So right now for me, that has been sitting outside. If the weather is favorable for sitting outside in the sunshine, or just listening to the birds because it's spring and everything is coming to life. I'm loving decluttering a little bit at a time. So some people might think that doesn't sound like a hobby or life-giving, but for me, it actually is, especially if I just take little projects at a time. It's not so overwhelming then. And another thing I like to do is read.
I love that. I would love to know your answers, Lisa. What's something you've been doing in your downtime right now?
Since I just made myself my second cup of coffee, does coffee count as a hobby? No, probably not. However, the way I look at my coffee bar, my husband and I tend to collect coffee from locations that we visit, and limiting my caffeine intake recently has been eye-opening. And at the same time, it actually makes me appreciate my cup of coffee even more. So I realize that's not really a hobby, but we do love going to different coffee shops. Much like Emily, I can't wait to get outside. I haven't really done very much like just sitting outside and enjoying the sun. Once the weather changes, gardening will definitely be up there for me. Also, similar to Emily, I do enjoy a good, just kind of even rearranging things. And then it kind of turns into decluttering because you're like, now that I'm touching this thing and cleaning it, do I need to keep it? So I do enjoy just kind of rearranging things and reorganizing things. I can use it as a buffer, but a lot of times it calms me. So yes, the answer to the second question is yes, I do feel refreshed after.
I love that. For me, I've been more intentional with reading lately. And to flip that on its head, I'm reading instead of scrolling. So that kind of leads us into that comparison of high quality leisure activities versus low quality time suck activities. So what makes leisure time high quality? My opinion is that a high quality leisure activity will improve your well being, either physically, mentally, or spiritually. It could be something you're naturally bent at, something you truly enjoy, or something you set out to learn with intention. They could be comforting or challenging, or a combination of both. They will be life giving, restorative, growth oriented, or relational. How do you find out what you would enjoy doing as a high quality leisure activity? One thing that I thought of is think about what you enjoyed doing as a child. Did you enjoy sitting inside playing with your dolls, or were you more the outside, ride your bike kind of a person? Kind of reflect back to your childhood, and it will help you come up with some ideas. So, girls, what are some examples of high quality leisure activities?
Okay, I'll start. I volunteer once a week, and I can do this from my house. And yes, it does involve a screen. However, that what you were just describing with a high quality, like when you are finished, I have a byproduct of something that has kind of filled my soul, knowing that the work that I just finished doing is helping another person and or persons by completing a task for them. So I love volunteering every week.
So, in addition to what I mentioned with the first question that you asked, reading, spending out time outside, I love coffee dates. You both know that I get in the Marcos and I sometimes let you know, hey, I have a coffee date today or a walk date with a friend. So I consider that to be a high quality leisure activity when you can connect with a person in real time, face to face. I also love that you mentioned something that you set out to learn with intention. I have found that that has been a high quality leisure activity for me. I've mentioned it here before on the podcast, but one of my 90-day goals a couple of years ago actually was to learn about homeopathy and how to treat acute illnesses in my family. And I just signed up to take another course to go deeper on some other remedies and how to use them for various things that might come up with my family. So I'm currently taking that. And I also love cooking, baking. I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the podcast or not, but I've been grinding my own flour. So learning how to bake with fresh milled flour. Those feel like productive uses of my time, but for the enjoyment of learning a new skill or a new tool for my toolbox.
Yeah,
So I have to check myself. I love being productive. So I need to check myself. Am I also enjoying this time where I feel like I'm spending it productively? Then I know it's a leisure activity or a hobby versus spending my time wisely and feeling like that somehow adds to my worth.
oh, that's deep. Well said.
Well, I read a quote, that's why it's on my mind. I'll read it for you here. Dr. Caroline Leaf. She says, "This is why it's hard for you to rest. You confuse rest with being unproductive, and being unproductive with being unworthy. Unlearn that." And that hit me between the eyes.
Oh boy.
Okay, when am I turning my productivity into worthiness? So it's good for me to check myself and learn what to pay attention to when it
I
comes
love
to
it.
downtime.
That
I don't
is so
think you're
good.
alone there.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not alone with that quote at all.
So, you girls know that Jim and I play cards almost every night when he gets home from work. And I have always loved playing board games, cards, puzzles, all that kind of thing. And I just recently was looking into getting, have you seen these puzzle boards that you can make a puzzle on? And I always thought it was just so that it wasn't like taking up your dining room table all the time, you know? you could like pick it up and slide it under the bed or whatever. But I saw one recently that you can actually like tilt just a little bit. So you're not like leaning over the table and, kind of straining your neck. It kind of tilts up. So you can just sit on a chair very comfortably and work on your puzzle. And then it has little trays that slide out from the side of the board. So you can kind of organize your pieces by color or whatever. And I thought that might increase my my puzzling, because I kind of get obsessed with, once I start a puzzle, I keep working on it, and then I have coined the phrase puzzle neck. I get puzzle neck if I puzzle too long. But I do love all board games. Jim won't even play Yahtzee with me anymore because he says that he's never seen anyone get so many Yahtzees in one game. I'm like, take me to Vegas, baby. I'll show you a good time. Probably the only game I don't love, and this game was made by Satan himself, is Shoots and Ladders. It never ends. When my kids wanted to play that, I was like, oh, please no.
In that same category, the game Sorry and the game Trouble, those were also never-ending
Never
games.
ending.
You just go round and round and round and round again.
I know, but I love playing games. I love playing cards. Yeah, I know a lot of men who love to golf or hunt or fish for their leisure activities. A few years ago, my son learned how to disc golf. And disc golfing is free, you guys. So they have courses all around our area, and it's not like regular golf that's pay to play. You just go and it's outdoors, you play. He's collected all the different kinds of discs, and he just loves it. If it's a sunny afternoon, he punches out of work and goes and plays a round of disc golf. And I think he gets like 20,000 steps every time he plays or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, really great, high quality leisure activity.
You can check with your local
Yeah.
library as well, because they
Yes.
sometimes have discs that you can check out. So
Oh,
truly, it could be free, so you don't need to invest in
I didn't
the
even know
actual
that.
discs. So check with your local library and see if they have discs that you can check out.
Interesting. I didn't know that either. As soon as Emily said she was milling her old flour, I'm like, sourdough. I have
Yes.
been loving baking and letting go of my perfectionism, because sourdough is persnickety, in my opinion. And you have to just be okay with it not being okay every time. And so I have just really enjoyed the method of it, figuring it out, and it's been very entertaining, delicious, and trying at times.
I am always impressed to see the very beautiful loaves that you show us.
The sourdough monkey bread I just recently made, that was a huge hit. So I'm excited to, as we move into spring and summer, and probably won't want to heat up my kitchen quite as often. There are a lot of recipes in this sourdough recipe book that I have that lean more towards like baking with discard, so like making your own crackers and things like that. And so I can see myself doing that and then using them, on like charcuterie boards or things for like outdoor gatherings and things like that.
I love it. You girls are very inspiring in that area. So, one thing that I have been doing recently, and it really takes intention, is practicing silence. So, I've never been the kind of person who has like the TV on for background noise when I'm at home or anything like that. But especially in the last few years, every time I walk, I have a podcast on, or I'm talking or listening to my Marcos in the car, have a podcast on. Just it feels like, even like when I'm getting ready in the morning and I'm putting my makeup on, I'll have a YouTube video on or a podcast on. And I feel like sometimes my brain is actually like buzzing with input. And so, like just this morning when I took my walk, probably the first 15 minutes or so, I just was quiet. I just listened to the birds. Finally, the birds are singing again, and just was alone with my thoughts. And I think that's so important to just have silence sometimes, just be quiet, even talking to God, listening to God. It's hard to have, meditation time when you're always having input into your brain. So we've talked about buffering before on the podcast. And just as a refresher, buffering is any activity you do when you're avoiding a negative emotion by choosing an activity that essentially has a net negative result. These activities will feel like numbing out, they'll be draining, isolating, or even passive in what they are, in what the way you feel when you engage with it. So, when you think about doing something, there are some activities that are life giving, but they could probably go either way, right? They could be, like you said, something that you're striving for to prove your worth. They could be just filling time, instead of being intentional with your time, just a passive activity. Do you think it is the activity itself that matters or how we engage with it? Lisa, how would you answer that?
I would say it is how you engage with it. I would say it's the context of the activity. So, for example, if you are, I don't know, binge watching your favorite show the night before a big presentation or a test, you're likely buffering. However, in the same vein, if you're watching that show with a good friend or you and your husband are, that you have plans like, okay, on Wednesday night, we're going to sit down and watch Survivor. Go listen to that episode. Anyway, but you have intent there to do something with someone you love. So there's connection there versus just the binge watching because you're avoiding getting ready for something else. So yes, I
Exactly.
do think that context matters there.
Yeah. So, kind of the same way, Emily, how would you describe the difference between rest and escape?
It's important to check in with how you feel while you're engaging in that activity, how you feel after you have spent time on that activity. Do you feel rested, or does it feel like it was a time warp and you have no idea how 2 hours went by? I think those are some indicators. And I would go back to what Lisa said. I agree with everything you said. And I also think sometimes the activities themselves can be detrimental or dangerous if we overconsume, right? And even God tells us to be aware of idols or obsession. If an activity is something we feel like we can't stop, well, then it might be an addiction. Then it might be an unhealthy activity that you find yourself going to all the time that went from buffering to a dangerous. So I think it's just so good to be aware. Check in. How am I feeling? Is this hurting myself or others? Is this coming in between me and my relationships? Is it hindering my walk with God? So I think that's why this is such a valuable conversation, right? Because we're encouraged to have hobbies, we're encouraged to spend time doing things that we love, but we can easily, as humans, take it too far.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking about when I did my 1 year spending fast, I kind of had little rules and guidelines that I made up, but I was following them until I became very legalistic. with that. So you can have guidelines on your time and on your activities, but it can become, legalism at some point where you're like, well, I never watch TV after 10 p.m. at night, and then you just stress about making sure you turn it off. Well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to be so legalistic with what you do and don't do. But I think the intention of choosing life giving, healthy activities with some boundaries for yourself is best for your health, mental and physical health. So let's just give a few examples of maybe a low quality hobby, entertainment, buffer, as we like to call it in coaching, that maybe either that we've tried to eliminate from our lives or things that maybe we still struggle with or we've seen our clients struggle with.
I'm going to take it because as the time of recording this podcast, we just celebrated Resurrection Day. So I laid down social media for the duration of Lent. So today is really like my day one of kind of like, oh, I can go back onto all the socials. And honestly, I'm like, what am I even doing? Like as soon as I like you were saying, being very legalistic about it, like as soon as I gave myself permission to let my foot off the brake, I was on there for like 5 minutes and I'm like, I have really not missed anything.
Mm.
I really haven't. And there were times when I felt FOMO. Like this morning, I'm like, okay, well, can you even remember like what it was you felt like you were missing out on to go and check out that person's page or maybe what they might have said about something that happened in the last several weeks? Nope. Nope. So endless social media scrolling, that would definitely be an example for me personally. And one of the reasons I laid it down was something else you mentioned, Angela, which was falling into that comparison trap. And I recognized that I was doing that too often, which is the primary reason why I laid it down. So check in with me in another week or so, see if I've picked it back up.
I can relate to all of that. That is something that I definitely have to have boundaries with.
I think we can all relate to that. That was the first one I thought of. I was like, let's just say the obvious one, endless scrolling, doom scrolling. That can turn into conspiracy theory rabbit holes. That can be over obsessing over the news or current events. I think anytime we find ourselves kind of going down a path that just leads to more and more and more information overload isn't very healthy. We need to give ourselves a break from that. I'll say another obvious one, online shopping. Whether you buy or not, adding to cart even gives you that dopamine hit. But then if you don't buy it, then that was time that you just spent looking and looking some more. And again, the same problem. Once you search for one cute little pair of shoes, they give you all the options for similar pairs of shoes or the outfit that will go with it. Or again, it could be endless information and options.
Yeah, don't even ask me how many are in my saved for later Amazon cart.
Same, or my wish list. Like
Yes.
somehow it feels better to just put it on a wish list, although I don't see that every time. So that's, I guess, a better option. And we have all mentioned on here before, I love to thrift. So even that, I feel like at times can be a really fun way to spend an afternoon if I'm just doing it for the fun of it. It can also be kind of obsessive. Oh, I got to get there this week and see if they put anything else out that's new. Or, oh, I'm going to get a deal on this because these are normally, $50 and they have them marked down to 10. So again, check in with myself. Why am I here?
Yeah.
Am I enjoying this, or is this a waste of my time like it would be if I was opening my phone and scrolling through all of the information?
Yeah, for sure. So, do you guys ever wonder about these people who comment on every social media post? Like, are there people who do this all day? I mean, I don't do this, but I think that would be something that would become a very bad time sucking habit to just be. I mean, let's be real. We all are here for the comments. Some of the comments are hilarious, but some of them are horrible. And people who are just trolling and commenting all the time, don't do that. Here's one. How about you talked about having coffee dates, but what about when coffee dates turn into gossip dates? And I can just say, I'll just speak for me. Yes. And I've noticed for me, when I have times of more intense stress or drama or conflict in my life, I am more prone to gossip. And I have to be very careful about that.
I'm not a big gossiper. I find it exhausting. But one thing that came up for me while you were just describing that for yourself is I will be more prone to being judgmental. And then I immediately recognize how I feel in doing that. And I'm like, oh, please. Okay. Reset. Where's the reset button?
Yeah. Yeah. And we had talked earlier about escaping. And if you think about things like pornography, soap operas, smutty books, escaping into a fantasy world to escape real life. I even think it doesn't even have to be a smutty book. It can just be any get me out of here. I want to, live in my imagination for a while. Snacking with just mindless snacking or drinking as an escape or an actual hobby will have a net negative result in your life.
Yeah. I think if the activity becomes the decoy, then you know that the hobby is like that's a sign to me that it's going to drain you more than fill your cup, as Emily was talking about earlier. So there are some of those things that you listed, like I love a good escapism book, but it's not going to be something. I'm not going to pick up the book and continue to read it if I feel um that's not, what's the word I'm looking for? The decoy was the only one that came to mind. Like, it's not true. Like, if I'm just sitting down and sitting by my pool and reading a good book, of course I love a good escapism book because you just want to just take me away. But at the same time, not in a detrimental type of scenario, which I think is what you were kind of talking about, Angela,
Yeah.
when
And
you're.
I think you'll know if you're setting aside intentional time to read, like you said, I'm laying by my
Mhm.
pool, I'm reading, versus if all day long you're like, I got to get back to that book.
Yeah.
I need to get back to it. Like, I just don't want to be in my real life. I want to just get out of it. So pay attention to
Yeah.
how
Check in
you're,
with yourself. What are you
yes,
running
for
away
sure.
from?
What are
Yeah.
you avoiding? Is there emotion or
Yep.
something in your
Yep.
life that you are avoiding? It's good to notice too if that's becoming the habit and then you're not following through on your responsibilities. If you're not taking care of your children, if you're not taking care of your home, or if you're not engaging with your people, then that hobby has easily become this addictive, obsessive thing that has really made you escape from life, not just from life for an hour, but like life in general. So it's good
Yeah.
to notice that too.
So even things that are like, oh, work or exercise, great things that we want to have in our life can be something that we use to avoid real life. Overworking, being a workaholic, over exercising. Pay attention to what boundaries you have and how you feel when you're doing those activities. So let's talk about how someone can gently transition from low quality habits to more intentional, high quality leisure time. And I have an example from my own life here. And we've talked about habit stacking before. Taking something you already do, you already have time set aside for, and then adding something intentional onto it. Maybe you're brushing your teeth and you're doing squats or whatever. One thing that I incorporated recently was I always sit down to eat my lunch. So I'm already eating lunch every day, but I sit down. I always sit down. I probably take 20 to 30 minutes. I sit down when I eat, and I will either read while I'm eating my lunch, or I have one YouTuber that just very much has very calming videos that really calm me down, and they're very relaxing to me. And so I'll watch one of her videos while I eat my lunch. And it's something I truly look forward to. It restores me. My sitting down time at lunch, it truly does restore me every day. Emily, how would do you have any ideas for how you could maybe swap out some of your hobbies for more high quality leisure?
I believe we've talked about this concept on the podcast before too, but recognizing whether you're consuming content or if you're creating. So that's not even just content to post, but like if you're watching a YouTube video, there's nothing wrong with being entertained by a YouTube video here and there. But if that's the habit, maybe notice all I'm doing is consuming this. I'm not doing anything with the information. It's not inspiring me to live differently or learn a new recipe or a new sourdough method or whatever it might be. So maybe just swapping out that time that you are using to consume content for something that's going to inspire you to then create, whatever
Yeah,
that looks like for you.
to
Learn a new
implement it.
painting. Yeah, learn a new painting skill. Learn, like I said, a new recipe. Learn about if you want to grind your own flour. I've watched plenty of videos of people reviewing flour mills and how it works and how the recipes are different. I did that for the purpose of learning how to implement it in my life. So, noticing consumption versus creation and how much time are you spending consuming versus creating.
Yeah, Lisa, do you have any ideas for that?
I would go back to you talking about having intentional quiet time, like having, I remember growing up, my mother telling me it's okay to be bored. And that always used to infuriate me. As a child, I used to be like, what are you even talking about? No, this is not fun to be bored. Of course, now that I'm older and have my own children and live in a day and age where everything is instant gratification all the time at our fingertips, I think what you mentioned earlier, Angela, about just being quiet, being okay to be with yourself without that constant, I forget what you described you had going on in your head, like your head was buzzing or something like that.
Yeah.
But like I live with a person who needs constant background noise, and I'm the opposite. Like I am often like people will be like, "Mom, you gonna turn on the radio? You're gonna like," because I could drive for miles in silence. I enjoy that. And I get why others don't, but I think that it is important, like you mentioned, to recognize, to give yourself intentional downtime.
Yeah.
And if it's uncomfortable to you, then transition in slowly. I'm not saying, okay, for the next hour, you don't have to become a monk. You just have to like little baby steps, like Angela's eating sitting down. That's amazing. I was just thinking while you were saying that, I'm like, I don't always do that. I'll eat on the run. I'll grab something to go. I'll take my food with me to work. So I'm like eating and doing other things. So, yeah, just you mentioned habit stacking, just habit stack it in with something else. But I challenge any of our listeners who feel that, like, oh, I'm not going to sit in silence easily. Just try 1 minute, 60 seconds. You can do it.
Yeah, so my personal challenge is choosing connection over isolation. Over the years, so when I was in like my teens and 20s, oh my gosh, I would have given any amount of money to have people around me all the time. I was always planning dinner parties, tea parties, outings. Just the more people around me, the better. And now I have to drag myself out of the house to meet someone. And it's not because I don't want to be with people, it's just because I have gotten so comfortable being at home and being alone. It has become my comfort zone. And so I won't say almost, it has become too much. I need more connection, real life connection. So it is a challenge for me and something I am currently working on. Okay, so a few final takeaways for our listeners. It's not always what you do, but it's how and why you do it. A low quality activity in moderation might be fine, but when it becomes a default, it forms us. High quality leisure tends to leave you more alive, more connected, and more aligned with God's design for your life. And let's remember our time is a gift, and how we spend it shapes who we become. Thank you to our listeners for choosing to spend time with us today. If anything we talked about resonates with you, please reach out. If you're curious about coaching, Lisa, Emily, and myself all have private coaching practices, and we offer a free call where you can ask questions and get to know us a little better. We love referrals too, so send your friends our way if they are needing a little extra support right now. We look forward to seeing all our listeners in our virtual lounge this month. And girls, I'll see you later in the Marcos.